Alrighty, sorry about that. A little bit of a hiccup. Start coming in hot, pleasing in for from another stream. And subbing in for Kyle's a little bit off kilter. Didn't have enough time to set up a lot of stuff, but we're just talking about really mostly just the playoffs coming on board. We'll actually bring that graphic back up as qualifying just about to get underway here for a lot of these drivers. There's a couple drivers locked in: Sebastian Marin, John Hall, Jake Nichols, Jake Matheson locked in. But Connor, you were talking about it before the stream started. He needs to be here to make sure he's locked in.
Yeah, he needs to be here to make sure he's locked in. He also has to make sure he has his audio up. It's also very important for anyone who ever does iRacing have audio up. But Finian's intro was great. Don't worry about it. But yes.
I actually nailed it compared to last night, but I'm so sad. I accidentally had to mute. I had to reset something in OBS to get it working.
We're all good now. That's the important part. But the problem is for the drivers not safe. They're going to be maximum stress tonight for sure. Marin, Hall, Nichols, Matheson are all locked in via wins. Schaefer, Knoll, Beckner, Venable, Weishart, and Bappy are locked in on points. Daniel Day is plus 44, mostly good. But after that, it's all chaos. Ricky Springer, only 4 to the good over Jeremy Miller. Then Casey Lakatos, Patrick Moose, Pacey Wygen, Garrett Grant, Justin Anna Sogak, Ware, Shear are all right there within striking distance of pointing in. It's possible Edward Shear, 20th in points, might not even need the win tonight to make it into the playoffs, but everyone 21st on back, or at least there's 4 drivers or so that probably or almost certainly need to win their way in at this point. Eric Wineland is 13 back of 20th place. He will need to almost certainly win. Gary Waterworth, Julian Valadez, JT Poole, same situation. Those are drivers who are going to be racing with everything on the line and nothing to lose tonight. John Hall, on the other hand, he's pretty much all good. He's just going to be trying to get the best finish possible without any of that stress that goes along with it.
Coming across the line to complete his first lap. And first and only lap, I should say, for him. He's off. Actually, no, he's starting his first lap. The ATV was lying to me. It showed him already with the 1 next to his name.
When you go across pit exit, you'll cross that line, so it's probably ATVO being tricked. So you do only get that 1 lap officially. JT Poole is one of those drivers that theoretically, at least as it stands, maybe could win his way in. It's tight. He would need more starters. He's 40 points back of 20th place, and with only 35 drivers, gonna be tough. He might need more starters, but at this point he's gonna be going crazy for the win anyways, as he'll go below the yellow line. That is legal in qualifying, not during the race, for setting a lap. 54.973 puts him pretty close to the top, 3rd on the timing sheet. Jeremy Miller is a driver. He timed in 3rd. He is a driver who's right on the cut line points wise, and it's going to be pretty important for him to have a good run tonight.
Yeah, Travis Beckner in the 28 machine. He is coming to the start-finish line. I believe he's also starting a lap. In 28, he's off and away into turn 1.
Another one. He's had a very interesting season across all area races. What is it, 3 or 4 wins in the Pro Series. Winless currently in the other 2 series. Did not make the playoffs last night. He is all good tonight and will be right now seeded 6th if the playoffs started tonight, but there's a lot more on the line at this point. He's going to be one of the more aggressive drivers at the front of the field tonight, trying to stay in the lead draft. Whatever teammates he can get up there with would be very important for him as well.
Ryan Swansea, him in the number 20 machine, working his way on through. Actually, want another driver that is starting a lap. Man, it's really hard to tell the drivers that are actually on a lap, but here's Travis Beckner, who we know is on his flying lap. Across the line for the 28 machine. It's going to be 54.948. That's good. Decent lap. Should put him in 2nd place. Actually tied with John Hall.
Yeah, just barely. Just a freaking ties. I don't know how. It's so crazy that they happen at tracks like this, but they certainly do. As he's going to go top of the board, but it looks like John Hall is going to get the tiebreaker over whatever iRacing deems is that tiebreaker. Patrick Moose was right there as well, just 1,000th off, so all those 3 really good single truck speed, about 100th over Jonathan Evans, and Jonathan Evans back in the field, a winner at Daytona earlier this season, not eligible for the playoffs, but trying to sweep the super speedways this season. He starts at the front. Mason Kane just tied the other 2 as well. They all ran 54.93s, and Mason Kane's gonna get at least it looks like he's going to get the pole from that.
It looks like he's going to get it. And this had to throw up Travis Beckner. It was just having a laugh there and seeing 3 people tie there for pole position. But as he end up ending the session here as we transfer over and just take a look right there and read it and weep. 3 people there tied for first on the timings as far as it's concerned, and then Patrick Moose 1,000 off of that to extremely close qualifying here. Going to come to an end. It's going to be Mason Kane that'll be taking the pole in his 31 machine.
That's going to be an important start. He just needs to get something going for this season. For Mason, it hasn't really been the season he wanted, so it's good for him to be able to start near the front of this field at this point in the season, and he's usually good at super speedways as well. But also you got Beckner up there who has nothing to lose. John Hall up there has nothing to lose. It seems like everyone's racing with nothing to lose tonight for different reasons. The guys locked in the playoffs, they have nothing to lose, everything to gain. For the other guys, it's pretty much the same thing, but a lot more stress one side compared to the other.
And taking a look at some of the points here before we head green here, taking a look at the team standings, very close. Connor, probably not to your liking. At least at the moment, it's currently looking good. You just team's taking the lead. Currently sitting first, but just 11 points ahead of second place.
The team battle in truck has been great all season long. It's really the only series right now that does have a battle for the top spot, and it's a pretty big bragging rights for the team that wins it. Miller Racing is lurking. They've been catching up the past few weeks. Elite Entertainment has kind of fallen off in recent weeks, and Lucky Ducks kind of separated from Swan Motorsports, and then 011, 6th and 7th right there. And then the battle at the bottom of the series for that charter battle, Powerhouse and Outfront Motorsports. Outfront made a big gain at Rockingham 2 weeks ago.
And again, just taking a look at the points we were looking at before, it is very, very close around that cutoff line for the final few spots, really for the final spot, with Ricky Springer just in a couple points over Jeremy Miller, Casey Lacotta's Patrick Moose. That can change really quickly, but then again, like we always talk about, it always changes a lot. If just one driver has to get a win, and they'll immediately punch themselves in. And we saw that last night in the Area Cup Series, with Tyler Nichols taking home a fantastic win, able to get himself into that series.
And one thing I found funny, that last night, Edward Shearer was the driver who got booted out of the playoffs by Tyler Nichols winning. Tyler Nichols was 20th in points going into that race. You look at this standing sheet, where is Edward Shearer Jr. located? 20th in points. So I would say those drivers around the cut line, superstition, but you just never know how this race could go. It's always been sort of wild. It is Talladega after all, but we've had at least one repeat winner at this track in seasons past. Ryan Hartz went back-to-back. Ryan Swan is in the field tonight. He has a victory here, as does Cameron Hearn, and Travis Beckner is our most recent winner at Talladega. Jonathan Evans, our most recent winner at a super speedway. He won a season opener by just a little bit over Jake Nichols at Daytona.
Yeah, waiting on the warm-up here to finish for these drivers as we're just about to get ready to go racing here. And how do we think? What do you think we should expect as far as the race going to play out? Do you think it's going to be action-packed? Do you think it's going to be a little bit more calm from what we've seen in the past?
I don't know if it's going to be calm by any means, but I don't know if it can be much more chaotic than it was last night with just the way the Cup cars run. It's just very erratic when you're just pushing someone. I still think the trucks are pretty erratic, and they might not have as much grip, but you're going to be going a lot slower. The pace is going to be just naturally slower. You're not going to see speeds get up to 205, 206 miles an hour. We'll probably see maybe low to mid 190s tonight, so that pace will be a little bit slower. I would assume these drivers just have a little bit less more time to figure out what moves they're making as we've advanced to the gridding process, which makes the race official. 35 starters tonight, and that playoff sheet that we were showing, you can kind of throw at least part of it out the window. Jake Matheson not in the field. He's not going to make the minimum amount of starts to be in the playoffs, so one more spot just opened up.
Yeah, it's going to open up a lot of things. We definitely have to take a look at towards the end of the night how things wrap up. I want to thank our starting grid sponsor before we get going here, Central Mobile Homes. Looking for a small or large home, a new shed, or a Triple Crown trailer? Look no further than Central Mobile Homes. They've been proudly serving Florida customers for 28 years with a plethora of small and large home floor plans, shed designs, and Triple Crown trailers. Available in LaBelle, Okeechobee, Clewiston, and Sebring. Head to CentralMobileHomesInc.com to get started today. And let's start off with our pole sitter. It's going to be Mason Kane. Jonathan Hall effectively tied on the timesheets, but the way the sim sorted out, first and second for both of them.
So first and second for them. The other driver that tied with them was Travis Beckner. He'll be relegated to the third position at the front of the field. And then Patrick Moose, who comes in tonight just barely below that cut line, starting at the front in fourth position.
Moving on back to fifth place, it's going to be Jonathan Evans in the number 9 machine. He's going to be rolling off in fifth. Daniel Day, sixth place in the 61.
Daniel Day well in, but not fully in right now. Matthew Bappy will start in the 7th. He might be locked in, actually, but I don't know. Matthew Bappy will start 7th tonight. Tyler Hallman, a little further down in the order, will start 8th.
Moving back to 9th, it's going to be Brian Stenizak in the 09 machine. Next to him, it's going to be Garrett Grant in the 5 truck. It's going to be rolling off the 10th.
11th position will be the 81 of Brad Slaughter Jr. He's won at drafting tracks before. He's alongside Jeremy Miller, who says he's good at these types of tracks for the most part, and he's qualified up at the front to prove it. He'll start 12th.
Back in 13th, it's going to be Seth Knoll in the number 1 truck. Next to him, JT Poole. He's in the 26. He's rolling off in 14th.
Poole led when the caution came out last season, but did not get the victory. David Weishart will start 15th. He's a winner at the drafting track at Atlanta. Ryan Swan is a former winner at this track, Talladega, and he starts in 16th.
Back in 17th, it's going to be Devin Johnson lined up in the 90 truck. Next to him, Daniel Ware is going to be in the 98. He's going to be rolling off from 18th.
The top half of the field sorted out, and then 19th position will be Jake Nichols. No Sebastian Mayer tonight. He wraps up the regular season Drivers' Championship, and the 30 bonus points go along with that. He starts 19th. Chris Seidenfaden, always a threat at Super Speedway, starts 20th.
Moving on back behind them, it's going to be Eric Weiland. He's going to be rolling off in the 21 truck in 21st. And Justin Anasoga next to him in the 88. He's rolling off 22nd.
23rd position goes to the 87 of Jeremy B. Brown, and alongside him, a driver locked in on points for the playoffs is Reese Schaefer at a 07.
Back in the 23 truck, it's going to be 25th. Vincent Cortez, next to him, Casey Lakatos in the 50. He's rolling off 26th.
Lakatos needs a good points tonight, just like these two drivers on the same row. Pacey Wygen starts 27th. Ricky Springer starts 28th. He's only a point of a good on Jeremy Miller. Wygen a little bit further back.
Everett Sherry Jr. is lined up in 29th in the 17. He's got an EOL, so he'll be heading to the back. Sean Petchin in 30th. He's in the 69.
31st position goes to be 8 of Rafe Slate, and Joshua Balliette will start alongside him in 32nd. Two drivers that have had a tough season to this point.
Moving on back to 33rd, Cameron Hearn. He's in the 67. Next to him, Lucas Strayer in 34th. He's in the 41 truck.
And then 35th position, the final starter tonight, and maybe the final driver that can get his way in with a win, Gary Waterworth, running out this 35 truck field.
And before we get going, take a look at the track conditions. Not that it matters a whole lot here at Talladega, but 80 degrees in the air, 101 on the track. As we get ready to go, 35 trucks are going to be lined up here, ready to get it going here at Talladega. 80 laps on the board. And we'll see what we have in store for us. Pace car makes the turn off to pit lane. Field and control of Mason Kane, and a long wait till they head to the trial before they can get going. We'll see what's going to be in store for these drivers tonight. Who will make it into the playoffs? Who will have to sit on the sidelines for the rest of the season? As we head into the restart zone. And we will get ready to go racing here at Talladega. Field rocketing to the start-finish line. In the lead, it's Mason Kane with a push from Travis Beckner in behind. Jonathan Evans, he's leading on the top lane with a push from John Hall in behind.
And we're going to see more of this tight-knit action all night long. You kind of saw the lanes be spread out last night, and I almost guarantee you'll see the middle line pinch that bottom line all night long, and maybe we'll see a third lane later in the race. But I think on the sim, the trucks race closer to the next-gen Cup cars in real life than really anything else, where you have these two lanes that can be gridlocked. The big difference is that the pushes are much more aggressive on iRacing, or at least it seems that way, and you can get that driver on the outside out in front easier than you can in real life. As Evans got the lead quickly, John Hall didn't go with him. Him and Patrick Moose, two Miller Racing teammates, will link up to get the 0-3 to the race lead.
Trying to make it work. Patrick Moose trying to push on the outside. Get the run going. It'll be John Hall that'll lead the second lap. Notably looking down the order, I saw one driver out of line dropping down with Seth Knoll in the one. He decided he wanted nothing to do with what's going on in the front. He's going to try to play cautious early on here.
Kind of what he did at Daytona, ended up biting him because pretty much everyone wrecked at Daytona. We got a wild crash because of it. Looks like Brad Slaughter Jr. Can't tell if he was trying to go to the front or maybe just testing the waters or trying to drop back. He'll get back into that second lane. A track like Talladega, it's very wide, but once those 3 lanes get clogged up, you're not going to find a way to the front without probably ruffling some feathers, as you're already starting to see some drivers try to make their way to the front in a short amount of time. Pacey Wygen started at the back of maybe 9 positions further back than 18th position, already shoving JT Poole, trying to get that third line going, but really no run, as there goes the 33 of Weishart up the track, pushing Brad Slaughter Jr.
Couple drivers trying to make a third lane work. We're gridlock double file, and here we go, 3 wide. The 81 leading that charge. As you mentioned, Weishart giving him the shove, and I think I just saw Nichols in the 73, I think, move up to the top. Is he in the 73 in the series?
Yes.
Okay. Wanted to double check that. Jumps to the top. And give him a shove. JT Poole in behind them as well. So there goes the third lane. Here we go, 3 by 3 wide.
And if this is the end of a race and we're coming to 5 to go, if you're 20th on back, if you're in the 0-9 situation, or excuse me, Eric Weiland situation or Danny Ware's situation, you're pretty much done. You're not going to get to the front with these lanes clogged up unless you try a 4th lane, which I don't think I've ever seen work on iRacing in a long time at least. So you got to be at the front when it matters the most. Track position is going to matter a decent amount here. Not as much as other tracks, obviously, but you still need to be at the front when it matters. And also, you got to avoid the crash that's inevitable.
You have to avoid the inevitable crash indeed, and we're curious to see though if we're going to get some green flag pit stops. I mean, obviously it's very early on. We're only on lap 5, but something you have to keep in mind. Last night didn't get a chance to see that happen. By the time we got to the end of the stint, a caution that can't come out, so never had the chance for that to be a factor. It always can be a factor here. You got to keep that in the back of your mind and just kind of keep going. And you see quite a few drivers near the back just kind of hanging out, letting things roll, but they're a lot of drivers near the front, still 3 by 3 wide. John Hall at the lead on the bottom. Jonathan Evans in the 9, he's pushing from behind. And the 31, Macy Kane, also on the bottom there, tucked on.
Yeah, pretty much everyone who dropped to the back did so correctly, as we still have 3 lines working their way out of turn number 2. 34 of 35 drivers in this main pack. The only one not able to keep the draft there on the initial start was Cameron Hearn, who's already about 11-12 seconds behind the race leader.
Yeah, not sure what happened with the 67 truck, but he's got a long way to go to the front. He's going to be kind of one of the drivers hoping and banging a caution does come out sooner rather than later, so we can get back into this thing. Otherwise, it's going to be a very long night ahead of him. That outside lane, though, it started to go, but didn't quite get there. They kind of stalled out, it seems, with Brad Slaughter.
Really hard to make that outside line work for a long period of time. It's even more hard to sustain it right now, even early in this race. The oil temp, the water temp, they're going to rise really quickly when you're on the rear bumper of someone, not getting any air out of the nose of those trucks. So for Weishart, for Patrick Moose, and for the Mason Kane machine on the bottom line, it's all about managing your temps. Don't push in the corner. It's unnecessary. Use all your temps to push down the straightaways, get the biggest run possible into the corner, then lift off, and make sure everyone's ready for that lift off. Or in the bottom 2 lines case, have John Hall, the race leader, kind of switch between lanes. It keeps the 38 cool, and it makes the 9 have to work harder, and it lets Mason Kane get cool as well. So those Miller Racing teammates are going to do a good job at this point to keep both those lanes well cooled off, and it makes the job for that 3rd lane much harder.
Patrick Moose
How about 4?
Oh yeah, there we go, 4 wide. You're talking about it, not really able to work, but they're going to try to make it work. And you see David Weiser trying to stop the run. JT Poole's the one leading that charge of thinking that outside in the 26 truck.
With Pacey Wygen, I said I don't think 4 wide would work, but we're doing it pretty early, lap number 8. I think Poole tapped the wall there, kind of ruined his momentum, and Slaughter got up to kind of block that a little bit. Weishart got out from behind the 81, so we're quickly back to that 3 wide action that we were used to seeing. Patrick Moose has gotten to the lead in front of John Hall, meanwhile, with Daniel Day now leading the middle lane.
JT Poole, smile on his face, having a lot of fun back here in traffic, although at the moment starting to lose out some ground as they drift further and further on back into traffic, back in 18th now. But you mentioned Patrick Moose taking the lead as he's come down from the middle lane ahead of John Hall. Daniel Day now in the 61, he is leading that middle lane. He's got the 62 of Tyler Hallman in behind him, trying to give him a shove.
And he's in a pretty good spot right now. Without Jake Matheson, it opens up another spot, which means it kind of gives him at least one extra point, the case Lakatis, but it's all about just finishing this race decently well. As long as he just finishes this race in a decent spot, he has nothing to worry about for his playoff hopes, and doing a good job right now. He's been consistent all season. That's why he's in this position up close to the battle for top 5 as he has to readjust himself. Goodness, I hate those sliding chairs. If I ever had to race in one, it'd be really tough because you could see the adjustment he had to make in his seat in the middle of the corner at Talladega. You don't really like having to do that.
I feel his pain because I also race in a office chair, which is not ideal, but you unfortunately got to work with what you have. And yeah, it's tough, especially, and I'm surprised he actually went to go readjust to mid-corner because like you mentioned, it's not really where you want to do that.
No, definitely not. There's a little bit of action in the back. I think Slaughter and Weishart are, or no, that was Cortez trying to go to the third lane. Slaughter is going to hang him out, so we're back to kind of 2 gridlocked lanes at this point. You've kind of seen more drivers back off a little bit. There's really only 6-7 drivers in each lane pushing hard. Everyone else has kind of drifted back a little bit. You see Wygant and Anna Sogak getting a tandem to the high side, having a little bit of a run and having success, but they'll get checked up by the 23. Cortez does not get in line. I don't think he had a hole there anyways. Looks like Slaughter went back to that third lane at the same time, further up ahead.
He did for a second and backed out of it. I think he felt like they were not making enough headwind, although now it looks like they're starting to get hooked up. Well, we see him jump out of line. Here they come up to the 81 truck in that middle lane, that red and black one, and it looks like he's going to stay in line, so off they will go with the charge to the front.
Meanwhile, at the front, here goes Moose. He's going to try to help John Hall's temps out a little bit. Just going to control the lines with his teammates because Kane probably getting a little bit, or the 03 is probably getting a little bit too toasty. So Moose up to the middle. Mason Kane will have all the temps in the world to push, as that little switch right there lets that outside line come further up to the front of the field. Now it's led by Vincent Cortez, pushed by Pacey Wygant, who's shown a pretty solid pusher at this point tonight so far, and we're still just getting lap 11 done. Good pusher, probably equals a lot of risk being taken by the 00, though. You can see that big wiggle there.
So everyone get a little bit squirrely there as Moose will dive down low. That puts the 31 Mason Kane in the middle lane, and puts Daniel Day up on the top. Whoa! Gets the door slammed shut on him.
That was Day who went to the top, actually. I was about to say, now he's on the top side. He came up in front of Vincent Cortez. The Hendry County Motorsports Park trucks also similar, but at least they do have different numbers. That's a positive because that's required. So Day went to block his teammate, kind of hurt that third lane's run a little bit, and then immediately gets back to the middle line, jumps Mason Kane. So you kind of have the Hendry County teammates working together a little bit as well. So you got Low Dollar and Miller Racing trying to get control of this race at this point, whether together or separately. They're kind of fighting for supremacy with a whole bunch of others mixed in. See Tyler Hallman in the top 10. And then Wygant, Evans, and Sogak also in the top 10 battle.
Yeah, a couple of the cars in control of the lane, the 61 and the 23, trying to work together, work it out. And at the moment, that top lane looks like it's starting to kind of die off a little bit towards the back. Cortez not quite getting up there. We'll see, maybe someone else will try to dive up there and maybe make a move. Potentially Jeremy Miller. I see him in the 30. I can sense him potentially making some moves here.
We'll see. Kind of looked unstable with the rear at this point. We'll see if that third lane starts to die once we get further into this run. It's definitely going to be a 2-stop race for everyone, as that middle lane gets really sideways for Garrett Grant, but he kept it straight. I can imagine everyone's going to 2-stop this race. It's just a matter of how you 2-stop this race. I think theoretically you could see a line of drivers pit on lap 20 and then just run their fuel stints out to the end of the race in 2 different stints. So you might see drivers short pit and just get on a line and try to go faster than the main pack. But I think we'll see majority of drivers just take the fuel to the very end on this part of the run, as the pushing for lap 14 is already getting pretty intense.
It's getting intense, and there is some trouble up ahead. The name of Cameron Hearn. He is running around 20 to 30 miles an hour slower than these guys. They're catching up on him quickly. You can see the pack charging hard, and 3 lines abreast, so there's not a lot of place for him to go. So things can get dicey here.
He has no obligation to go to the apron because he's trying to at least stay in this pack. And thankfully, they caught him in the tri-oval a little bit where you get that extra lane. And I think that third lane realized what was going to happen, but they're still going to have to squeeze 4 wide past this black 67 Silverado. But they do just that, do a good job of making it work. As Hearn will hope for that yellow to get back on the lead lap eventually. As now everyone is back in this lead pack, separated by only about 2 seconds from first to 34th.
So Patrick Moose up ahead by a decent run in that middle lane. That middle lane almost seems to be the place to be. Get out of the bottom. The top lane, not a whole lot for the drivers trying up there.
Yeah, it really broke apart once they had to get by the 67 as they're going to try to form back up again. First ones up there are Slaughter and JT Poole. No surprise there. 2 aggressive drivers trying to get some track position here. Seems like another Hendry County Motorsports Park truck's trying to get up there. That's Cortez and Wygent trying to reform up. So now you got 4 trucks trying to get that third lane to work as we start to work lap number 16. And this pack kind of got split apart a little bit more. You have more and more drivers starting to drop further and further back.
Ooh, a little bit squirrely there on the bottom between the leaders getting close to each other. Slight check up there, and you always got to, kind of brace as a driver. Never know what can happen. Never know there's a checkup. There might be a checkup on the top lane as the 31 and 61 try to cut it off, but here comes the head full of steam. Brad Slaughter up on the top side.
I said we'd see speeds up to maybe low to mid 90s. I think if I look at the 81 of Slaughter, he hit 199 there. So throw everything that I was talking about in the trash. You could definitely go a little faster than what I thought, but it's just harder to sustain those types of runs. I think the runs are smaller. The difference in speed from having a big run to not having a big run is, I think maybe that gap is a little bit smaller, so the runs just seem smaller at that stage, but definitely some serious speed in these trucks, as once again, that third lane, as quickly as it got a rush, it has to drop back.
Can't quite get things hooked up and going forward in that top lane. They've been trying, but no success as of yet, and the 61 of Day will drop down to the bottom. And we'll take control of that lane. Mason came back in the lead from the middle. Tyler Hallman in behind that blue and black truck. Here comes 81 of Slaughter again.
One thing I noticed a few laps ago when the 31 and 61 were working together, or the 31 and 38, excuse me, they were kind of squirrely in the middle lane. They almost let Tyler Hallman have a look to the bottom middle 4 wide, so they got to be careful of the way they choose their lanes and just make sure they don't give a lane up for someone to try 4 wide, because it could spell disaster, as now Mason Kane's going to lead that bottom line as they keep rotating trucks in. But now it's not a Low Dollar or Miller Racing truck leading the middle line. It's Tyler Hallman in a 62 for 011 Racing. 09 Racing, excuse me. I said 011 earlier. It's 09. I know my Roman numerals.
And these drivers trying to make it work and riding on board with Edward Shooter Jr. in the middle of this field. And he had an EOL and pretty much starting near the back anyway. He's up here in 9th. So he's made some slow and steady progress forward, and it's kind of stalled down at the moment. No real for him to go. Can't go left, right, center, middle, forward, backward. He's kind of stuck across all lines. Whoa, is Jeremy Miller, an aggressive move from him from the bottom, from the middle to the top.
And you were calling it. You saw that aggressive move coming a few laps ago. He finally made it to the top side. Now Slaughter's going to shove the heck out of him. And even though it's early, still over 60 laps to go, you already have some drivers that need to win, almost certainly up near the front. We've already seen Pacey Wygent up there, Gary Waterworth up to 7th. Tyler Hallman's it cannot make the playoffs, but he's still trying to get his first win in area. And Edward Shear, like you mentioned, into a top 10 battle after starting at the very back of the field. So already those drivers who are in desperation mode getting to the front of the field.
Drivers that need to make it work, and we mentioned one more spot opening up from the absence of Jake Matheson, and it was so close around that cutoff line. So the desperation is going to increase as drivers know there's one more chance for them to get in should they not get a win. Mason Kane leading on the bottom. Miller trying to make it work on the top, trying to see if they can take that lead away from the top side. And that 30-81, I think, could be a really solid combo with Miller. Ooh, it almost looked like he was going to bail out and go back to the middle.
I think he thought about it and it kind of checked up that top lane. But what I'm starting to see is a seemingly visible tire wear. You're starting to see the rear of these trucks jitter a lot more as we get 20 laps in this run. We're well past halfway on a fuel run here at this point, as now Miller's going to commit to that middle line, give Slaughter some air. But I'm starting to see those pushes. I don't know if they're getting more aggressive, but I think they're just getting more out of line because of the tires wearing out and just not having as much overall grip as the 3 wide gets tight for second position.
And usually you don't really think of grip when it comes to Talladega, but it's definitely a factor, and you're definitely going to feel it pushing really hard and behind, someone losing some of that aerodynamic grip, it gets really squirrely there, especially later on in the run. So some of the fact these drivers got to keep in mind as the top lane prevails, and they'll cut down to the bottom. Look at that, a fantastic move from Brad Slaughter and JT Poole, and Poole's not done yet. He's going to cut to the bottom to try to take the lead away.
And now Poole's going to try to get up with Mason Kane, Daniel Day, and a few others, and maybe work with them a little bit just to get this track position as Slaughter and Miller get to the middle line. Slaughter got down there, Cortez could not. So now you're down to 5 trucks in that high lane, including Jake Nichols, Sean Peachin, and Ricky Springer, who's also in that cut line battle with the 30, 20, 30, and a few others there. He's trying to make his way to the front.
JT Poole having a blast.
Whoa, pit stops.
Oh, and you're calling around lap 20, some drivers may be coming down. Whoa, someone coming way on through, contact and a wreck.
Matthew Bappy and Rafe Slate came together. Slate spinning into the grass. That's not going to bring out a caution. That looked to be most of the Miller Racing and low-dollar trucks, so seemingly they're working together, but they're going to lose Bappy and Rafe Slate.
See what happened here. Everyone was getting slowed down. It looks like Slate just could not get on the brakes and bailed out of it. And unfortunately took out another truck in that as well.
Yeah, he just maybe locked up a little bit and just could not get slowed down. Definitely too fast, and Bappy a little bit of an innocent bystander there. So that's going to throw a wrench in their plans, but they're still mostly going to come out in a decent line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trucks together at this point. But that's kind of what I mentioned. They can pit lap 20 for for less fuel than they would if they stretched the fuel to the end, and then just take full fuel tanks on their you're not even going to have to take a full fuel tank on their next stop, but they'll have to take probably more fuel than the drivers who take this stint too long. So their goal is to get together and just run fast laps faster than the lead pack, but it's going to be tough with only 5 trucks if they can't keep John Hall.
And you can see as they came, there's a field came around the next time by, not a single taker. So that's the divergence in strategy we're seeing here. I like it. Always like to see a difference in strategy. These guys are going to have to try to get up to speed as quick as they can. That lead pack is approaching and approaching quick, so they need to get dialed up, hooked up, and ready to go. 6 trucks, that might be enough to keep up some decent speed. We'll have to see.
Yeah, they did slow up to get John Hall back in, so they'll have as much of a line as they could have had with about 5 or 6 trucks. Day, Kane, Moose, Beckner, Evans, and John Hall. So Jonathan Evans kind of snuck in there. I don't believe he might be part of their Discord, but definitely not on those teams, but he will link up for that strategy. I'm sure he thinks it could get him to the lead, but it doesn't matter if this doesn't go green. We got to remember that for sure, as Vincent Cortez, Jeremy Miller, Jake Nichols, Shear, Waterworth, Hallman, Senesac, Peachin, all still in this battle that's still 3 wide.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big thing, that second group that came into pit. They're going to be hoping the lead pack is constantly fighting and jostling for position. That's going to mean that them being single file, they might be able to eke something out. And actually, really, this time by will be the first big telltale, as they're not actually fully in line. But we'll see what the lap time was last time by for Mason Kane. It's currently showing the speed. I'll read the time off. It's a 49.9 for him for the leaders. 49.9 as well.
That was all by design, though, when Daniel Day dropped out. He was leading that line. The driver who was pushing him, which I assume was Mason Kane, his engine temps got hot, so what Daniel Day does, he gets out of line and lets that line by, and then the driver at the back of the line, John Hall, he lets Day back in so they don't lose too much time. That's how you have to do that when you're in a small line like this. That's how you get the biggest runs possible and the most speed possible. So if they execute that to perfection, they're going to gain a lot of time on this lead pack, because even when they didn't look that formed up, they were still a touch faster than that lead pack.
This time by Mason Kane across the line, 49.96 for him. And then looking to see what the leaders can do here. JT Poole leading the charge. Across the line for the 26 with the lead pack, it was a 50.0. So that group, they're maintaining and slowly hiking away. So it's starting to work in their favor. They need a bit more of a gap, but so far so good.
And they're going to switch Mason Kane out, so Patrick Moose now leads. Hall collects him. That's how you do it. We saw that in the Cup race last season when things got spread out. The lead line did that exact thing, and it made them pull away even more. So that's the strategy that they're going to use, and if they can perfect that, they will kind of look like Stewart-Haas Racing did like 6 years ago at this point. Plus, they're going to gain another truck in Matthew Bappy once they lap the 89.
Taking a look at Eric Wineland in the 21. Gray unmarked Ford Taurus, not Ford Taurus, sorry, Ford F-150, wrong series. Wrong era as well.
Completely.
But he's rocking up there on the top side with a charge. He's leading there, and he's got to push him behind from the 51 of Ricky Springer.
Yeah, I was just noting Shearer really cut JT Poole to get to the bottom there, as Ricky Springer doing a good job pushing a 21. They're getting to the front three wide action. Looking at this pack's times, 50.1s, 50.2s for the most part. That other line, that time I ran 49.7s, 49.8s, 50 flats. So definitely a little bit faster at this point.
That's what they're going to want to work out for. That's what they're going to want to work in their favor, is that happening, especially when the pack is three wide like this. Wineland's still trying to make a move. And in the middle there, Bryce Senezak also making some inroads, starting to make a move to the front.
Taking a work so far. I have at least a few new players in there after the departure of most of the front runners. Shearer gets a big shot left from the 09 of Senezak, who's just trying to get a win from this season, where he has not been full-time this season. Same thing goes for Vincent Cortez, pushing JT Poole on the bottom line. Not full-time this season, just trying to get a win out of things, as he has had speed this season, but in his limited starts, not a lot of luck, as that third lane once again starts to fade with only 4 trucks up there, including Case Lakatos, who's another driver in that playoff cut line point.
See the outside lane starting to dial pretty quickly. Support leaving Eric Wineland, so he's going to have to jump back in line. There he is, 4th truck on the outside line. And back to 2 lines they will go. And I think the lead pack will need to realize they need to somewhat organize themselves. Otherwise, big picture-wise, they're going to be losing out to that second group. They've been hiking out a little bit ahead more and more lap after lap.
Yeah, that time by, that line did not even have that good of a lap. They had 50.4s across the board, but that's exactly what this lead line does. So even when they don't have that great of a lap, they still really don't lose much time.
You see him pulling in the middle lane, pulling out just to make sure he doesn't accidentally side draft the leaders and slow the pack down as a whole. And then, like I mentioned before, John Hall being the doorman in this group, letting everyone back in to continue their push forward.
We're still waiting on the rest of this pack to come down, and like I mentioned, they're just going to run the fuel dry and then pit and take less fuel on their last stop compared to what the other team, the other guys at pit are doing, where they will probably take mostly a more full tank on their last stop of the day, as these drivers probably only have maybe 5 or so laps left of fuel, so they cannot go that much longer.
There's the gap, really. There's the second group off and ahead, and then there's the gap, pretty much an entire straightaway back to the leading group. And the big question now is, when is the leading group going to pit as they start to get more and more single file?
Looks like, getting that single file, we got to have
there we go, yep. I smelled it.
A lot of trucks. A lot of trucks. Got to make sure you have an early stall. You get down. You got a few drivers sideways, but
wow, that's a lot of drivers at pit.
And no contact yet, but it's not over quite yet. And this is not really the ideal group you want to pit with, as Schaefer cut across Senezak to get into his stall. Balliet missed his stall in the 7 truck further back, but this is not the group you really want to pit with. You really only want what the Low Dollar and Miller Racing trucks did, which maybe 5-6 trucks is kind of a sweet spot. Otherwise, you're going to lose a lot of time just trying to get filed in, as a few drivers missed their stalls there.
Yeah, Holman is going to miss out on the 62 truck. If he was taking tires, he better cancel it. Get some fuel he can and get back out there. Otherwise, he's going to lose out. JT Poole will lead this pack on through. Then Ricky Springer, Vincent Cortez, as the second pack are going to come flying by. There they will go. And you can see the lead that they've developed.
And few others came down. Oh, Sean Peachin and Pacey Wygen into the inside wall on pit entry, and Justin Anastogak. 2 drivers close on points. The 88 and 00 had pit entry issues there.
See what happened here. Not too many pit in this group, but I think they came in a little too hot. The 69 around, and the 02 went around by himself. 2 separate incidents. And Anasogak right there ended up hitting the 00. Some damage to the nose of his car.
Big mistake. Gonna take them almost certainly, you would think, out of their pack, or out of any pack in total, as that pack that came off of pit lane, the big line, really got spread out and not formed up. that line, that 6-truck line, definitely pulled away from them as Anna Sokak, Wygen, Peach, and just pull off a lap down, and they're almost certainly not going to link up with any other line. But at the very back of the line of trucks that pit is the line of trucks that haven't pit yet. Miller, Knoll, Shear, Wineland, Jake Nichols, and Gary Waterworth. 6 trucks here who have not pit yet, have kind of come out at the back of maybe a draft line, so this could end up benefiting them if they can get a big run here.
And here they are coming out of turn 2. This can help them, this can hurt them depending on when they decide to pit, because they're going to have to be kind of bobbing and weaving through some slower trucks here. So there they go around the 69 truck that's John Petchin. Miller's going to go around. I don't know. It's kind of iffy whether or not they want to come in this time, and he's going to have to slow down.
They're coming in. He slowed up big time there.
And off they go.
Gotta get in safe. It's
hot.
Miller. He's in though, but that was so key that they kind of inherited some draft from the drivers that had already pit. That certainly, I would think, would have gained them time, but we'll see how it plays out.
Doesn't matter, just making sure you execute the pit stop. And it looks like everyone got into the box okay. Jack's going up, service being done. A couple trucks taking, I think, 2, and quite a few taking 4. And off they will go. And now the big question is, where do they end up in relation to the rest? There is the first pack that came into pit. Mason Kane leading them down, and they will definitely take the lead away. But a much better pit run for this group that just came in.
We'll see how quickly those 6 can get formed up, because they come out right there, and then the next line that they have to contend with is led by JT Poole, and that consists about maybe 10 trucks or so, but they actually have 9 other trucks catching them, so that's going to be about a 19 truck pack, plus maybe these other 6 that they're about to catch. So that will be the main pack, with those low-dollar Miller Racing trucks doing a really good job through strategy to get about, looks to be maybe over a 5-second lead.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that group up ahead, they're going to really be able to get something going here, because here comes JT Poole, pretty much 10, almost now 20 car pack as that second group catches back up. So I don't think they're really going to be able to get something going here. They might just barely be able to keep ahead of this group catching them, but not by much. They're going to be in the slipstream, but the leading group, they did a fantastic job and have executed this perfectly. They got a 4.5, 5-second gap now to the rest of the field.
And if they keep working the draft like they are, it's going to be really hard to catch them for sure, because that other pack's going to have more trucks, but you can't really do the strategy with 20 trucks or so with this single file line. It's really important to only have about 6 trucks or somewhere around there, a single-digit amount of trucks involved in that swapping mechanism. So I'm not sure, unless just more trucks just carry more speed to get back up to those top 6, or through maybe taking less fuel, I'm not sure how those guys are going to get caught.
There's the gap between the leading group and the main field, as actually JT Poole's making a move to the outside. He doesn't want to wait, and this is going to really cause more drag and slow down for this chasing group now.
Yeah, we'll just see where this lead stabilizes. Looks like 6.2 seconds is the gap from Miller to Patrick Moose, and it's really important to see his gap to John Hall, which is kind of more like 5.5 seconds, or maybe 5.4 seconds, as they're going to go 2 by 2, maybe slow each other down. We'll see if they can make any sort of progress doing this, because one thing about having 20 trucks, being single file is slower, I think, for that amount of trucks. I think you have to be some form of 2 by 2 just to have more speed and less checking up.
You'll see they're actually kind of bringing it back in, keeping the gap around 6 seconds, a little bit faster. They're 0.3 faster than this group, I think, because they were in a little bit of a transition. So it's going to be now a question, can this group maintain that gap? Or whether or not that second group will catch back up.
The worst case scenario for them, I'd say worst case scenario for those 6 is that they do get caught, because it kind of hurts their strategy a little bit. Because they're going to have to, I would think, take more fuel on their final stop of the day than everyone else who waited long. As also another line that did not work out, Pacey Wygant, we saw the pit road incident with Peachin and Anna Sogak, or they've formed up, the 00 and 69 have, while they've kind of found Jeremy Brown in the process. They've also gotten by Matthew Bappy, who's now 2 laps down after his pit incident with Rafe Slate. Rafe Slate out of the race after that.
Yeah, this Cameron Hearn, the only truck a lap down in the field. Actually, Bappy's 2 laps down. Hearn, the only one lap down. So he'll be getting the free pass should a caution come out. And at the moment, odds are pretty low, I gotta say.
Yeah, but they're never zero at Talladega. Especially at Talladega. They're always like a minimum 20 at Talladega, it seems. The probability for a caution, as looks like Miller's going to get up in front of Knoll. I think they're just trying to figure out what they can do to catch that line of 6 up there, as they ran 50 flats up there last time, and this main pack maybe a 10th or 2 behind that, so still losing at this point, not making it work. We'll see what it is this time by. It looks like 50-point flats from majority of that line, so better job this time, but that line of 6 did 49.9s in 50 flats, so still not really able to make inroads.
Out of the back, I see someone popping out a lane. That'll be the 23 of Vincent Cortez, trying to get something working on the top lane. He's followed by the 51 of Ricky Springer. I will see the 45 of Chris Seidenfeld. We haven't really talked about a lot. This race is followed by Justin Anasogak, who made contact with the 00 of Wygant and on pit road after that little kerfuffle down there.
Bappy was kind of off strategy because of the contact with the 8, but it seems like Vincent Cortez, even though he's also on that team, he's gone a different route and gone with the main pack just going longer and taking less fuel on their last stop. So for the most part, he's the odd one out, sticking it out with this pack, as at least at this point, the gaps have mostly stabilized. That gap from Evans to Miller, or the race leader to Miller, has stayed 6.2, so they're doing a good job at least managing a little bit, but the catching might not be possible.
The big question is for the leading group now, when do they come in for stop number 2?
They're going to stretch this fuel as long as it goes, take the minimum amount of fuel possible to make it to the end, just to get less time on pit lane and just get out and get in line as quickly as possible for sure. The risk of this strategy is they obviously have that 6-second gap, but the risk of this strategy is they'll have to take more fuel than the main pack for sure. And it's possible that those drivers in the back might only have to take maybe a can of fuel possibly instead of 2 cans. So we'll just have to see how that ends up playing out, because that difference in fuel, taking less fuel, might end up making a big difference at the end. It might bring these packs together.
Making some good inroads the last lap, caught up by 2 10s and look like they might catch up another 10th or 2 this time by. So, this double file is not hurting them that much. I thought it would hurt them more, but looks like, and you were talking about this before, going too wide, it might work out in their favor. Eric Wineland leading that top lane. He's followed by Seth Nolan behind, then GT Pool, and on the bottom it's Jeremy Miller, then Ed Shearer Jr., and Jake Nichols.
And that lap, whatever they did, they got to do it again. They gained a lot. The gap was 6.2. It's now 5.5. So if they can keep doing whatever they were doing there with that 2x2 action, they need to sustain that.
Keep it going. They're making the inroads they need to, much to the dismay of the leading pack, who I think was in the middle of shifting over drivers. And there goes another change. Patrick Moose brought back. Daniel Day back up to the front in the 61 truck.
They're all going to lead laps, that's for sure, except John Hall, who's just being the catcher of the group, so he doesn't get to lead any other laps. Everyone else just kind of gets to take a spot in the conga line, while John Hall just watches everyone go through the conga line. So it ain't much, but it's honest work for the 03. The gap still kind of coming down, 5.2 that time.
Found something work out, and it's working out great. Jeremy Miller leading in front.
Yeah, it has something to do with the leader just kind of switching lanes, I guess, so both lanes can have turns pushing and no one has to lift, and maybe it reduces checkups. But Miller going top to bottom out of 2 and 4 per lap, seeming to make at least some sort of difference here, although he won't get down this time. Wild will have to do the dirty work.
No, we're definitely on to something there with drivers switching and cooling off each lane, and you have a whole line of drivers ready to go each time you switch, so that definitely can work out in their favor. This time by, I think the gap switches back into this group's favor.
Certainly did. 5.5. Oh, caught in the wall! Jeremy Miller got into the wall! They're crashing in that second line! Brad Slaughter spins and the caution's out, and Miller, right on the cut line, is totaled.
Yeah, car heavy damage here. First caution of the night. The 30 of Jeremy Miller, who we just saw in the lead. Take a look at what happened here. I'm assuming this was off the nose of the 21 truck. Oh yeah, it's a bad push into the wall he went.
Ooh.
Oh, and then the 81 got spun right there. That actually almost wouldn't have been a caution, but the 81 got sideways enough to trigger it.
Tyler Hallman barely missed Miller, who I don't know if he had no control because of the pit or what, but Wiley got on the right rear a little too much, turns the 30 into the outside wall, and Slaughter's ready for it.
Whoa.
Oh, and he got pounded in the rear by someone, and that's why he was involved in that. I believe that was Ryan Swan who got into him.
Yep, and Swan, he got a hit from behind as well.
But that could have been a lot worse. Maybe it was Danny Ware involved in that one, but could have been a lot worse. It only ends up really being 2 or 3 trucks involved, but really big points implications for the 30 of Miller, who with Matheson not being eligible, he came in tonight 1 point to the good over Casey Lakatos. And those playoff hopes are almost certainly over unless somehow that thing can stay on track with a broken right front suspension. But what that does do is really reset the field in an awkward situation, because we saw the main pack able to go, drivers who kind of stretched their fuel to the very end. We saw them go about 33 or 34 laps. We'll see what Miller did because he pit the latest. He pit pretty much on lap 33. So we're right on the fuel number here at this point with this yellow.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised to see everyone come on down. If you can eliminate that one stop, that's going to be huge here, because if you're going to pit, you need to pit in a pack. You can't just go off by your lonesome. So a lot of drivers, looks like they are not willing to risk it. They want to be on the safer side of things and will come down to get some extra fuel. Maybe not the tires, but at least some gas in the tank.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what strategy, if drivers want fuel and they're just going to hang at the back, or the drivers will want, or if they want track position and try to control this race to the end. But I think at this point you might need some fuel saving, as Cameron Hearn finally gets the gift he was waiting for. He avoided that incident. He's back on the lead lap. Looks like Matthew Bappy's going to try to take the wave around to get one down and just hope for another yellow. Still in a hole here as Waterworth, who needs a win, comes out first. Then Shearer, Beckner, Kane, John Hall. But I'm almost certain pit stops aren't done. You'll see a lot of the field top off.
Yep, so they will take the lead, and as you mentioned, Cameron Hearn, blessing for him just over halfway through the race, and will be able to get his lap back, and he'll also get the chance to pit. That's also the really big thing too, is that you can't really risk trying to stay out to get that lap back, because you may have to pit. But as field catches up, continue to pace. I want to thank our replay sponsors. We've seen a couple of them tonight. Henry County Motorsports Park. Racing's back at Henry County Motorsports Park. Join us on September 14th to see UMP Open Wheel Modified, Street Stocks, Factory Stocks, and more. Tickets are $15 for adults, with discount prices for seniors, teens, and kids ages 5 and under are free. Come to see racing at the southernmost dirt track in America, located in Clewiston, Florida, off of US Highway 27. Visit henryracing.com for more information. And also, because I have a feeling probably not going to get a whole lot of cautions, maybe a couple here and there, but I want to thank also Elite Entertainment. Add some life to the party this summer with Elite Entertainment. Located in Bowling Springs, South Carolina, Elite Entertainment provides some high-quality band production to entertain at any location, including karaoke, singo, which is music bingo, and more. Visit linktree.ee /Elite Entertainment LLC for all contact info. As Gary Waterworth will take the lead.
And here comes majority of the field again.
Topping it off. Can't hurt.
Yeah, I think it's important because, like we said, we only saw the field, or the guys who went the longest, they only went They didn't even go 33 full laps, and we'll be going green with 33 to go. So this is going to be a very interesting run. By the way, to quickly note, while those ad reads were happening, I saw some. Slaughter and Nichols just had contact at pit lane a little bit. But I was going to note Daniel Day had some contact with the inside wall under a yellow because his wheel disconnected. So 61 truck has some damage to repair.
There he is sitting on pit lane, probably frustrated, probably annoyed, and there he finally gets going. Get that truck out there. Not often you see something like that, but it happens. You know, we have not hardware failures in real life. You have the actual mechanical failures in real life and hardware failures in the sim. And so for Daniel Day, he'll get back out there in the 61. I can't imagine it was that hard of a hit.
I don't think so. I think he's going to be okay and was probably able to repair that. I am interested to see what the 73's nose looked like, because I saw him and Brad Slaughter have contact on pit lane, the 73 and the 81. Looks like, I mean, he's not going to get a chance to get repair. Looks all right from that point of view. So it did look dented in a little bit there.
So Brad Slaughter was the driver he made contact with?
Yeah, he mostly probably got away with it left rear damage, and he'll catch back to the pack. He was pulling in, Nichols was pulling out. I don't know if we got a better look at the 73 now, at least from my point of view, because damage is weird on iRacing. It does look a little bit funky.
Oh yeah, yeah, there it is.
It's probably won't hurt him too much, but those big runs that you can get, it's kind of gonna neuter that 73 truck as far as getting big runs goes. But it might not be a matter of getting big runs towards the end of this race. It might be a matter of just having enough fuel in the tank.
Could be. We'll have to see. Was he gonna come in?
No way.
I was gonna say that's definitely not worth coming in. We'll see though, as Gary's Watersworth will bring the field back down to green. Beckner, Kane, Hall, Moose, your top 5. We go back racing here at Talladega.
We mentioned 32 and 3/4 of a lap was the furthest we saw a tank go, and they're going to have to stretch that even further if this goes green to the end. So we might see the pace really slow down here.
Could see drivers in fuel-saving mode, especially drivers that didn't pit a second time under that caution. We saw quite a few drivers top off on fuel. Pretty much the entire top 12 stayed out. They didn't feel like it was worth it enough. John Hull, looked like it was going to go by. It was lonesome to the outside of Travis Beckner, but Beckner will stay in second place in line.
You can notice the full single file line. That's because of how many people topped off. So really only 6 trucks on the second lane, led by Travis Beckner, who will get back to the lead over Gary Waterworth. And we'll see if anyone tries to slow down the pace from the race lead. Earlier, before we got green flag pit stops, the lead lines would usually range from 190 to 194 at the front of the field. Right now, we're going about 185.
Yeah, we're not seeing a whole lot of drivers jump up to a second lane. A couple of drivers in the back look like they're trying to maybe make some forward progress, but it'll take a little while. But I doubt we will see it be as aggressive as we saw it in the first run. I could be wrong, but I do feel like we might see more drivers be a little bit more conservative at this point in the race.
Is going to look like an actual next-gen Cup Series race where everyone's slowing down and we see 2 wide, 3 wide, and it looks like racing when it's really fuel-saving.
Through the trial will it go near even like for Beckner and Hall?
That's for example right here. The pace right there, that lap. The real pace before pit stops of this pack it ranged from really 49 8s and 7s to 50.2s and 3s. And that time by, the pack ran 51 flats. So the pace is already around a second off of what we were seeing at full speed.
Starting to over Travis Beckner.
Camera shifted to the closet. You don't get a view of the driver of the 28's closet very often.
Yeah,
there's not much in there.
Got the fan tower in focus in the middle of the screen. He's the coach in behind, keeping him cool, keeping his driver cool. Jonathan all slides in front.
I think he has a spare Central United shirt in there. I think that's all that's in there. As we see Justin Sogak go for the race lead on the second lane, and you could see the pace difference of the driver saving and the driver's not, because Chris Seidman and Sean Peterson are able to tandem past everyone to get to the battle for the lead.
Who not quite able to get clear, though that's the issue. I think they might have to drop back, starting to stall out and lose momentum, and you imagine that 45, he's going to have to start worrying about his engine temperatures. But yeah, these are the two of the drivers that came in, and like you mentioned, they're a little bit less concerned about the fuel saving, so they're trying to see if they can maybe scrap the lead, or at least insert themselves into the top few positions, but doesn't look like they're quite able to do it.
And you can see that pace just being controlled as they're going to get another burst of speed in the straightaway. See if these drivers at the front want to push a little harder.
And the 69 left him out.
That's super speedway racing, unfortunately. Aside fan, he could get down to the middle because Anna Sogak gave him, but he didn't do it. I don't think he realized until it was too late, so we'll see if he can get in anywhere. As Anna Sogak's now going to go for the race lead with John Hall and Travis Beckner, JT Poole now behind the 69 and the 88. Anna Sogak needs to have a really good point today to get in without a win. Sean Peachin just looking for race victories at this point and maybe not looking at the fuel gauge.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, if anything, I think Chris Seidenfeld, it's like the Telltale Games, he'll remember that for later when push comes to shove, because Sean Peachin just left him out to dry.
This is the funny part, because it's not like he's really being hung out. I mean, he's still 3 wide there, not falling back. That's how slow these drivers are going.
Oh, there he goes.
They ran 52 flats last time by as Jeremy Miller rejoins the race looking for points. He's going to need a wreck at this point as Weishart now slots in the second, or excuse me, he's going to slot into about 5th or 6th position. Daniel Day had a little bit of contact there at the back of the field, but this is all games at this point. Everyone's trying to control the pace at the front of the field. No one really wants to lead the field for the most part, but at the same time, we do see those drivers trying to control the pace at the front while also saving the fuel that they want to save. So it's a really weird game because everyone's trying to control the race without actually controlling the race.
Yeah, you don't want to be in the lead too much long as well, because you're not doing any fuel saving. You can try to slow things down as much as you want, but whoa.
Seidenfeld's gonna. Well, we got people pitting. So they are not. I'm shocked by that.
I'm shocked by that as well.
They can make. Like I said, I thought the fuel was close, but they are not confident that they can make it. Seidenfeld, Weishart, Poole, Swan, Senesac, Slaughter, Jeremy Brown. This does cover.
You know what?
It's not the worst strategy when you think about it, because they'll be able to go full speed to the end of the race. They'll gain on the main pack. Well, they're just taking fuel only, so they won't even be that far behind. And if a yellow comes out that they don't cause, they might be able to cycle up to the front if anyone has to pit.
You also have the same thought when I had it as well. I was going to say that because the leaders are running nearly 2 seconds off the real high pace, these guys are going to pit. They're going to get out there and they're just going to go full beans. And if anything, it's going to put more pressure on this pack, because now they can't just ride a fuel save the entire time, because that second group has a chance of coming back at them. This gets interesting. I love it. I love seeing strategy like this play out. And they're not too far behind. 34 seconds, 2 seconds a lap. They can easily make that up.
And there's 25 laps, and the rate that if they can play it perfectly, like the Miller Racing and low dollar trucks were doing earlier, they can run 50 flats at 50.1s, which would be like 2 seconds, close to 2 seconds faster per lap. If they can do it, they'd be there in a heartbeat if they could play it right.
I'm wondering now, the pace from this pack is going to start to kick up a little bit more. But then again, if the pace kicks up, you're not saving as much fuel. Do you have enough? It's in the air, and we're going to check this time by and what the lap time difference is going to be and how significant that is.
You see every now and then someone gets out from that single file line just to go full speed, just to know what it feels like again. And the Sogak's leading this line here in a 51.4. So the pace did pick up a little bit more there compared to what they were running, as we'll see what that line of pit stops does. That's most of the David Weishart Racing trucks that pit, but Cameron Hearn and Jeremy Brown were in there as well.
David Weishart flying towards the line. Imagine that this lap is going to be quicker. The key question is by how much? 50 flat, so nearly a second and a half. That's pretty good.
And in 24 laps, that'll be enough to, I would think, to get there if you keep that pace up. But at the same time, you think eventually eventually that line's going to have to pick up pace and go for it at some point.
And this time by this group, 51.1, so it picks up again.
And they're doing the same strategy, exactly the same strategy, where the leader gets out of line, and then the driver at the very back of the line. Actually, they're not doing it fully similar because the driver at the end of the line is not catching it all. They're just letting that driver go first to last in the line. Last time by, lead line did 51.1s, though, so they picked up the pace even more. Weishart's line will be running 49.8s, though, so that's still about 1.2 seconds. They need more than a second a lap at this point, which they did, but they got to sustain it.
They got to sustain it. Obviously, the big question here is, can this group make it to the end at the rate they're going at? It's the looming question.
So I can't imagine. It's interesting because I don't know how much Jake Nichols, Seth Nolan, those guys saved during that run to go 32. Coming to 33 laps, so I can't imagine it takes that much saving.
A couple of the drivers that have drifted on back and are in fuel saving mode, and I think this is really where you got to also pay attention to the drivers in the back of this pack. They're just riding out, kick your legs up on the dash if you didn't have to have them on the pedals, but they're just kind of coasting back here. They're not pushing, modulating the throttle here and there, so if anything, they might have enough to make it if that second group doesn't catch back up.
But you always got to get up to those top 3 lanes before they get too clogged up. You don't want to lay back too late and then just not have a lane to go to if you're Eric Wineland or Ricky Springer, Casey Lacadas, Balliet, etc. So you got to be making sure you're going to put yourself in a position to get towards that front as this lead line, once again, starting to gain some steam. They ran about 51 flats. They actually ran majority 50.9s that time by. And that line in behind, they're crossing the line right about now. They ran 50.3s and some 49.9s. Excuse me, no, 50.3s for the most part. So that was only about 0.7 of a second, 0.6 of a second, not what they need.
It's going to be so interesting towards the end. But this leading group's starting to pick up more and more. I'm wondering if maybe a lot of them were saving, trying to maybe get into a little bit of a better zone, then they can push a little bit harder now and keep themselves moving forward. Justin Sogak will lead. To the outside lane is Danny Ware. I haven't really mentioned a whole lot about the 98 since the drop of the green flag. Having a solid run for himself, starting 18th and is up here in the lead.
More 50.9s from the lead line. That time, that second line only did 50.6s. That's not going to get it done with 21 laps to go, and they're still 28, 29 seconds behind.
Yeah, they're slowly starting to run out of time. And every lap, it's looking maybe like that might have been maybe too aggressive of a strategy to work out.
Definitely a very aggressive strategy, for sure. I see Garrett Grant in there. He needed to point his way in. Actually, no, Garrett Grant is not in there. My apologies. I think Ryan Swan is not in a position, so I'm not sure if anyone in that line was even in a situation where they could point in. I know David Weishart was already in. JT Poole needed a win. He joined that line, but that's about the only potential playoff implicated driver in there.
Riding on board with Ricky Springer. He's got one hand on the wheel, very much in coast mode.
The sheer amount of effort taken to wheel one of these trucks right in the one very strong hand, that is Ricky Springer's. Just coasting, waiting for his time to go. I just don't know who's with who at this point, who's in that single file line, if they're all going to time it to go at a certain point, or they're just going to be when one goes, everyone goes. Those lap times pick up more and more each and every lap. That time it was 50.6s, 50.7s. So more people can take a sip of whatever you're drinking. Just coast, still need some fuel, maybe save for a green-white checker, and then get ready to go. Last time by, that second line ran 50.1s, only half a second. It's not going to do it.
It's not going to do it. Something's going to have to change here, and actually this entire leading group has almost gone out single file. There's only two holdouts. 5 of Garrett Grant and the 62 of Tyler Hallman. Otherwise, everyone else is single file here.
This could end up working well for Garrett Grant if he can run at the front, get a good finish. He needed to jump 4 others to get into the playoffs coming in tonight. Wygant, Moose, Lakatos, and Miller. And right now, he's ahead of all of them. And plus, he's obviously leading, so if he can win, who cares about the points? He won, as he's going to take his teammate out of the fight as drivers to the apron at the back of the field. Vincent Cortez and Eric Weiland went to the apron. I think they got caught out by a checkup and had some contact.
Whoa! Speaking of contact, 88 to the back of Hallman. They almost wrecked, but they'll go back single file. As Jeremy Miller gets lapped with his damaged truck.
And now everyone's single file. We don't even have a second lane at this point. Everyone's going to go single file at this point in the race. Gary Waterworth jumped out of line. He's got nowhere else to get in at this point. Lakatos, Balliet, and one other truck at the back also just kind of hanging out there. And if you can jump the entire field doing this, great. But for the most part, getting out of line like that, you're just going to lose yourself a lot of time and a lot of fuel delta. As you're starting to see a 4-truck breakaway, as you'll see that time by 51 7s, 52 2s from the front pack. And that time JT Poole leading the line ran a 49.8, 49.7s, but the gains are not consistent enough.
Yeah, there's definitely some better runners in that pack. And speaking of that breakaway, you were talking about Hallman, Anasoga, Grant, and Ware look to be pushing away. And actually, there's some more separation back here. 9 of Evans kind of in tow, and then more separation to Waterworth in the number 2 machine. As everyone is just saving fuel, or at least trying to do the best they can to save fuel.
Here's Anna Sogak. Now he's going to pull out a line and want to lead this thing. But he's not going to be able to get down in line, or at least it doesn't look like it. It looks like Hallman's, I mean, he's going 180 at this point. This pace is going to slow down yet again. See, if it slows down to 52 seconds, oh, look at that stack up. This is the issue when the pace slows down this much, you're going to get stack ups that could cause crashes. So going from like 190 to 180, that's going to cause a crash. So with Hallman leading this line doing that, these drivers got to be aware and they got to be careful.
Here comes Lakatos and Sherry Jr. They're tired of waiting. They want to go to the front.
They realized the stack ups were happening that bad, and it was like, I am not doing this anymore. I got to go. And Shearer needs to win. Lakatos needs points, as they just ran laps a second and a half faster than the race leader in Tyler Hallman. Majority of the pack ran 52 3s that time by. That second line comes back, still monitoring their times. They ran 49 9s that time. So that was a big gain. That was about 2 seconds worth, 2.3 seconds worth.
Gap is 23 seconds back to that leading group. They made up about almost 10 seconds since they came into pit. It's going to be awfully close to them. They need more of those checkups to happen, though, to slow this field down. As we start to get more faster and faster cars near the front, it looks less likely, but they finally get single file. This entire line of cars down to Reese Schaefer in 24th. And now it's a matter, can they tick off some good times? 50.7 that time by.
And Lakatos got the lead, and then I think he realized, wait, I can't lead this race. Now he gets back out of line. Pace picked back up to 50 and 51.7s there. And Sogak goes back to the high line.
Yeah, I have a feeling not many drivers want to lead this pack because they're all trying to save fuel, and guess who isn't saving fuel, and that's the one leading the pack.
Now Shearer's in that situation, and Sogak gets back in line, and you notice it's the same drivers kind of rotating at the front of the field. You got Shearer, you got Hallman, you got Anna Sogak, but everyone else is just kind of sitting in line at this point, just not doing anything. It's 2013 all over again, as you get another 3-truck breakaway. Shearer, Hallman, and Grant.
That time
Lucky
by
Duck, 09.
51.5 for the leading group that time by. Here comes the second group, now 21 seconds the gap. They're making some good time now. Jeremy Brown leading. Cross the line for him. Felt pretty quick, 50.2. There's our 4-truck breakaway. Yeah, Anasogak really loves running out of line. I'm surprised he's not running more in line, because he's definitely not saving any fuel.
And neither of these three are. It's just Danny Ware's just kind of letting them go and be like, all right, you guys want to go? That's fine. I'll control the pace. You guys can wear your stuff out, wear your fuel out. 51.4.
Sitting back and just enjoying the slipstream. Now it's just the waiting game.
That's exactly what it is. That second line still running 49.8s, but they're still 18 seconds back with, what is this going to be, 11 and a half laps to go. Unless they start gaining like 1.5, 2 seconds a lap, the math ain't mapping.
And not to mention, too, when they get here, they have 24 cars or 24 trucks to pass?
And I'd say a majority of them will try to get in front of them.
Yeah, so it's not quite looking out, but there's a big separation. Look at that. The second group held up by Casey Lakatos. They're really slowing it down. I'm guessing they really feel they can't make it. Now we're seeing some breakaways starting to form.
Here go the Miller trucks. Patrick Moose and John Hall are deciding they don't want to let those guys get up there, so they're going to try to get back up towards those top 5 or so and just get back, control some of this pack. Pacey Wygen's going to join them. That might be Daniel Day coming with them as well.
Riding on board with Wygent as Hall and Moose will get ahead, and that kind of killed the double zeros run. From behind, though, a couple of trucks lining up. I see Mason Kane in behind directly, trying to give a shove, trying to make it around the 50 because they realize they need to go, and it looks like they're starting to catch back up.
Yeah, now they're going 195 through a trioval. I think that there's some people that are going to start to go with 10 laps to go. You got to go at some point, as Moose and Hall were the first ones to go, but they got back in line. So it doesn't seem like they're done saving. I don't think anyone's fully kind of turned the afterburners on at this point. It still seems like most of this field still has fuel to save. I thought Moose and Hall would try to get to the lead, but it doesn't seem like they're good yet.
That second group now, the gap.
Here we go.
16 seconds?
16, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Still got to gain probably like 1.3 a lap at this point.
Oh, they can see the back, though, now, finally out of turn 2.
If they could just get a sniff of draft, but it's just not looking very likely at this point. But it looks like we're starting to race, even though some drivers might not be good on fuel. It looks like everyone's trying to get themselves positioned at the front at this point. Knowles up 3 wide. Wygent and Anasogak working together. Seth Knowles up to the top. I think that's Matthew Batby in line, still 1 lap down, 3 laps down, actually. So business is picking up.
Starting to pick up here. Drivers are tired of waiting. Here we go. 89 going to make a move to the top side. And will lead the charge with the one of Seth Knoll pushing from behind. I mentioned that was Batby, who's a lap down, but he's willing to help out people move to the front. And he wants his lap, well, at least one of his 2 laps back.
This is going to be interesting how he plays it, if he's going to try to get himself to the front of this line or if he's going to try to keep that back line, that top line, maybe behind a little bit, but things are really stacking up. You can still see drivers at the back of this line not fully good on fuel, like Mason Kane starting to fade back a little bit, but guys like Jonathan Evans, Pacey Wygent, and Anasogak are starting to get to the front. I'm not too confident about the 88's fuel or the double zeros because they've been up the front the entire time as contact between Waterworth and another truck.
I got to be careful here as they start to get racy here. Chance of a caution increases significantly as the laps wind down. That second pack, 15 seconds in behind. Some door-to-door contact with the 69. A pitching. That's getting dicey.
No one 4-1. And they're still banging doors. Even through the corner, they're still hitting one another. They're 4x4. 2 or 3 lanes back. Shearer into 69 and Knowles into the outside wall and crash.
There we go. Big crash out of turn 4. Wreck on the apron.
This might not bring out a caution. Lucas Strayer, Tyler Hallman are involved. Ricky Springer on the playoff cut line is heavily damaged through all this.
Oh, a couple slower cars on the track. One car stopped up on the track, but we're still green somehow.
Yeah, I don't know. Didn't seem like anyone stopped to bring out a yellow, so that's going to go fully green and really shake up the field. Edward Shearer Jr. was 20th in points and now leads this race. This all kind of got started with Seth Knoll forcing the 4th lane. him and Peachin couldn't lay off each other, and then the 17 hit Peachin. Tyler Hallman also got sideways in the process, and it went off from there. And Ricky Springer, points-wise, was the big loser there.
Yeah, trying to see what happened to him.
You know, I wonder how much that benefits that second line.
I don't know. We'll have to check on it. Ooh, a couple of drivers are going flying on through there.
Patrick Moose lost a lot of spots. He couldn't afford to do that either.
As they remain green, here's how they line up. This lead pack significantly smaller. So as they run, here's Justin Anasogak in the lead. The second pack, 5 seconds behind.
Oh, that doesn't play into their favor. These guys are in line because of the incident. Still trying to look at what that line that Pitt was doing. They're still about maybe 13 seconds back.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Point.
Sorry, they're further back. Yeah, sorry. I thought it was a second group.
But look at what this done to the lead line. Justin Anasogak, he came into tonight below the cut line. Jonathan Evans not in contention. Edward Shear came in tonight below the cut line, needing to almost certainly win. Gary Waterworth needs a win and a lot of help. Mason Kane not in contention. Of course, Jake Nichols is still up here, and then Cortez, Danny Ware, and then Daniel Day, who just needs to finish, is being able to stick it out. But really, right now, the players you got to look at are the 88, the 17, and the 2 as far as that playoff battle.
Riding on board with the 2-3rd truck on the inside line as the laps wind down. 5 laps to go. It is all heating up. A lot of drivers you typically don't see a lot in the front. They're trying to get themselves some solid points, if not a win, to get themselves into the playoffs, and this is where it all heats up. We didn't see the caution. We very much could see the caution during the next couple laps if they start to get a little too aggressive.
And they're going to get aggressive. I don't know how many people, I don't think anyone in this pack is saving at this point. It's just all full send and go at this point, as we'll see who's going to make a move. I thought the 69 went 3 wide there, but not quite. I'm not sure, unless something happens, 11th on back will catch up. This might just be a 10-truck battle to the end.
And here is that second pack. They're led by Travis Beckner in the number 28 machine, trying to make something happen here, but unfortunately it doesn't quite look like at this point a lot is going to happen for them to get back up unless that leading group wrecks. And it got John Hall, Travis Beckner pulling out a line to try to work out something, some competition, but not quite working out. There's Eric Wineland picking up the 28.
They're just not fast enough. I think they're still losing time at this point. Justin is going to have to pit. He could not make it on fuel. He pits coming to 3 laps to go. I was pretty confident he couldn't make it, and that proves right. Who else is going to be tight on fuel?
That is going to leave a big question mark. I didn't think we'd see anyone even dare try to come in. Just thought they were going to run out the tank. But that puts a big question mark on the rest of the field because quite a few drivers up here have been pushing, but there's also been quite a few that have been saving. It's going to get tight. It's going to get dicey here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple trucks run out on the final lap.
Here was at the front a lot. I'm concerned about him, but guys like the 2 to 73, they were at the back for most of it, as were Mason Kane and Vincent Cortez and Daniel Day. I'm worried about Peachin's fuel conservation as well, but doesn't look like, we'll see if anyone pulls off this time. I'd be shocked come to 2 laps to go.
Really, at this point, just gonna have to kind of cross your fingers, say a hope and a prayer as we come to 2 laps to go here in this lead group. Only 9 trucks on the lead lap. Jeremy Miller tagging along as well, 10 in total. Jonathan Evans will lead.
And look, Jonathan Evans, one Daytona, trying to sweep the super speedways. What a way to do it if he can do it on fuel mileage, but he's got so many drivers with a lot on the line right behind him.
So Peachin trying to make something work up on top. Mason Kane in behind trying to give him a shove. That top lane doesn't quite look together. Looks like they're about to start single filing out here as they come out of turn 4. Here we go. Unless something happens in the next couple hundred feet, we're going to finish this thing out under green. Mason Kane trying to work around Peachin 3 wide for a second, but the white flag in the air. 1 more lap to go at Talladega.
Evans just going to have to control whatever line gets to run, and I'm not sure if he can do that because Edward Shear at any point can pull out with help from Gary Waterworth and go for the win. And it's going to be tough to block two lanes at once. Here goes Nichols, second lane. Mason Kane blocked Cortez. The run's all the way on the top side. They're crashing down the back straightaway. They're all going to make it through. 4 trucks on the apron.
Cortez saved it.
They somehow all saved it, but Evans is still leading. When does Edward Shearer make this move?
That's going to be the big question here. A couple trucks dying out in the battle. Here we go. Coming out of turn 4. Who's got the run? Mason Kane's got the run on the top lane. A push from behind from Daniel Day. Here we go into the trial, but was it enough of a run? The 2 in behind's getting the shove from the 73. Through the trial they will go. To the line of 17, up and in the air, and it'll be the 9 of Jonathan Evans that'll win at Talladega.
Wow. What a wild race. Whew. Goodness.
How about that?
Unreal finish. I was shocked that Shearer did not take that run.
He took a run all right, but it was up into the catch fence, and actually that truck, all things considered, is looking pretty good. And in 6th.
With all the people on the cut line close to it who finished poorly, I mean, we will see what the points shake out to be. But how about Jonathan Evans as he gives a celebratory tap? Maybe too much of one in the case of Lacatus. Sweeping the super speedways. I'm not sure if that's ever been done in the Truck Series history, but 2 wins, Daytona, Talladega.
It's something so hard to pull off like that, trying to sweep at super speedways. Again, we always mentioned it before. It's the grand equalizer. But Jonathan Evans showing his prowess on these type of racetracks and coming in clutch here for him in the number 9.
I mean, just absolute, just played it perfectly. I don't even know what else to say. I was sure more people were going to be in danger of running out of fuel. I know there was the incident on the back straightaway. I think it might have been, I can't tell. I think Sean Peachin did make it, but how about Jonathan Evans? That was just a great drive. Just able to hold off the pressure and just hold off Mason Kane's run until just the last second. Just barely able to hold on.
As he starts to light it down here at Talladega, I want to take a chance to go and see at the finish there, because that was intense with the 17. Just get another look at this.
Yeah, really, I don't know if Shearer was thinking he'd be able to go, or maybe he wasn't good on fuel to his liking, but I thought he'd pull up in front of Mason Kane. He didn't. Kind of pulled up too late, maybe contact from Waterworth, and it was on from there. Flew to the fence, but somehow I don't even think he flipped, as Flagman will get a good view of what happened here. Gosh.
Oh, that is a terrifying, terrifying view of the finish from there.
He's not phased.
He is not phased at all, trying to get it on board with the 17.
I think just
strap
too
on,
aggressive
folks.
a push. Yeah, it's fun.
Oh,
man. Absolutely into the fence, and then thankfully no one hits him afterwards.
And gotta get the slow-mo going. I'm sorry, a little bit too far back there. But man,
I thought Shearer would go for it, then he didn't, and then at this point he's sandwiched between Evans, and also Waterworth is not lifting on his rear bumper, so just sandwiches at 17, pushes him up the track into the 31, and watch this baby fly.
Yeah, and it gets up to 31. And up and away. That is a terrifying sight. Oh.
Back end probably ripped off from the fence, but somehow that truck did not go actually flipping and tumbling.
All right, with that, let's go through our results from this race. Jonathan Evans in the number 9 taking the victory. Mason Kane in 2nd. Watersworth in 3rd. Dave Nichols your top 5 with Cherry Jr. up and over in the air in 6th. Ware, Cortez, Beckner, and Lacatus rounding out your top 10.
And a lot of people in that top 10 that kind of needed wins. We'll see if Lacatus might have made it on points, but Shearer needed that win, came so close, but ends up in the fence instead. Patrick Moose, he might have pointed in. Everything's unofficial at this point. Points are updated, but still unofficial. Hall was at the fronts for so long. Schaefer, Wineland, Peachin, Johnson, JT Poole was fast. JT Poole actually the highest finisher of that Pacu pit at the beginning of the run. Did not work out for them though, but only 4 of them get top 20 finishes. Poole, Slaughter, Swan, and Seidenfaden.
Moving on back to 21st, Bryce Senizak. Then it's David Weishart, Wygen, Ballot, Brown, Garant, Strayer, and Asogak, Hallman, and Springer, your top 30.
Incredible running at this point. It just all that was so wild. And then you got the unfortunate drivers here: Noel, Bappy, Miller, and Slate. Miller missed the playoffs. Noel was locked in, and I believe Bappy was in as well. So no harm, no foul for the 1 in 89, but the 30s chances end early, as well as Rafe Slate. His race ended early as well.
And I'll be rounding out the results here from Talladega. Let's get a chance to talk to, let's see, who do we got here? Talk to Mason Kane here, our second place finisher. Mason, we saw you in the 31. We saw you were charging hard there at the end. Unfortunately, couldn't quite get the victory as you were trying to chase down the 9. Walk us through how the finish went.
Yeah, man. We teamed up with the other, I forgot what their team name is, but yeah, we had those guys at our back, so we were all hooked up. So we had the run out of 4. I for sure thought we were going to win that thing. I haven't won one yet, so we're going to keep finishing second until we do.
Yeah, and just talking about that, obviously, as we head off into the second half of the season, obviously I don't think you ended up making up the playoffs, but looking at the rest of the calendar we have lined up, any chance for you to finally get that victory?
I don't know, man. Haven't put in as much practice as I did last year, so might get lucky here and there. I think this was definitely our only shot. I feel like I'll help my Miller Racing teammates throughout the playoffs, and hopefully one of them will win the championship again.
All right, well, Mason, thanks for talking to us. Solid finish for you. Best luck for the rest of the season.
Appreciate it.
And moving on next, let's talk to Gary Waterworth in the number 2 machine. Finished in 3rd, but boy, that was an interesting finish for you, Gary, I gotta say.
Yeah, I was hoping 2nd would take the opportunity to go high and I'd have a chance to follow him or cut low and hopefully leader block type of thing, but we stayed in line and worked together, so P3.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic result for you. And we saw you're kind of up and down throughout the order, and you end up coming there towards the end. And just walk us through, with the fuel mileage. What was the fuel situation for you? Were you guys good to go to the end, or was it still a little bit iffy, even far closer as we got closer to the finish?
I was a little worried about it once I saw like 3/4 of the field pit come into that 1 to green, but I figured with still a little bit left, I could save running mid-pack, and it wasn't too much of a bother with the pace that we were running.
All right, well, Gary, it was a solid finish for you in 3rd place. Decent result, and best of luck to you for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And last but certainly not least, in a fantastic finish there at the end, Jonathan Evans, you're able to get it done in the number 9. Walks through the finish went for you in an incredible last lap.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was a really fun race there. Huge shout out to Gradient, DVP, Team EPI, all the sponsors on the truck. Happy to get my 2nd win of the season, and I also need to shout out Edward and Sean. Sean and I were working really well together, leading up towards the finish, and then just Edward just pushing me there at the end. I mean, I appreciate the heck out of that. And yeah, once I came out of 4 and I was just backing it up, making sure no one could generate a run on me. And as soon as we hit the tri-oval, I looked in my rear view and I expected to see them all start fanning out 4 wide, and no one got a run. And I just, at that moment, I knew I did it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a great run for you there at the end. And, I was asking Gary about the fuel situation. How was it for you? Was it a little bit tight, or did you kind of end up, figuring things out towards the end and figuring out you were good to go?
Yeah, it was very tight. I actually barely got to do a burnout there at the end. But, yeah, I just kept kind of jockeying for track position throughout the run. I knew that some of the guys up front, like the 88 of Anasoyak, was probably not going to make it. So I was kind of using them just to bridge the gap a little bit and maintain track position. And then with about 7 to go, like everyone around me started to go. So I was like, okay, if I don't go now, just stay in the draft for as long as possible and just try to work my way on forward. And that's what I did. And yeah, I think I timed it pretty well there at the end and just got lucky. You have to be lucky. I can't believe I freaking won both the plate tracks this season. I mean, I should go play the lottery. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, we're talking about it. At some point, it just has to come down to some sort of skill at the end of the day, and you definitely proved it there on that last lap. So solid job for you, Jonathan Evans. Another win to your collection.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, it was definitely 100% skill, by the way. That was all skill.
Thanks for talking to us, Jonathan.
Yep, have a good one, man.
All right, and with that, it's going to be wrapping up interviews here from Talladega. And Connor, oh boy, we got a little bit of everything. Got some action, got some fuel saving there in the middle, some fuel strategy as well, and then a blast to the finish there, an intense battle, and a car flying up in the air. What more can you ask for?
Somebody had a truck flying up in the air at some point. We got it across the line, and that driver who went into the air still finished 6th. That shows how crazy of a race this was. For the most part, a clean race. So you had the incident here and there. You had the incident that didn't bring out a caution, but for the most part, a relatively clean Talladega race, which is hard to come by. Complete polar opposite of what we saw last night for the most part. And obviously that playoff cut line battle got really crazy at the end, especially with the incidents that we saw. Unofficially, Case Lakatos and Patrick Moose are the last 2 drivers in on points, pending anyone giving up their spot or anything like that. Moose got in by 4 points over Danny Ware. So Danny Ware, didn't even really mention him tonight, but he came so close to getting the finish he needed. And Edward Shear, who was almost there to get the victory, ends up 5 points short. Springer, Wygant, Miller a fallout as well. Springer and Miller specifically. So all that's unofficial, but we know at least most of those drivers that are going to be in the playoffs, and we know the drivers that are going to be threatening in a week's time when we go to Bristol.
Yeah, that's where the series is heading next. As you mentioned, Connor, heading to Bristol for the first round of the playoffs. But we're still not done with Talladega just yet this week. On Thursday night, Pro Series, they'll be heading for the final round of their regular season to determine their top 12. That will be fighting it out for the playoffs in that series. But next week for Bristol for the trucks. And we're going to be rounding it out here, wrapping it up here from Talladega here for the Area Truck Series. My name is Finney Kuna here with Connor Horn. We're wrapping up SimTV coverage here from Talladega. Thank you for watching.